Hi, welcome to the Beacon Hill Report with Senator Joan Lovely. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Senator Lovely, it's always nice to have you here in the studio.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Well, as the first order of business, something that is going on right now actively is the state budget. And just so our viewers understand, we're talking now about the state budget fiscal year 2019, because right now we're in 2018, and as most people know or should know, the state budget goes from July 1st to June 30th.
Correct.
So we're sitting here May 1st, 2018. So the current budget 18 is going for another 2 months, correct?
That's correct.
So let's talk about the FY19 budget, which will be starting July 1st. So kind of give us an update. Where do we stand on the FY19 state budget?
So just for a little history, the governor submits his budget at the end of January. That is called House 1 in the first year of our session. We're in the second year of our sessions, so it's called House 2.
Right.
So the governor submitted House 2 back at the end of January, where that went over to House Ways and Means, and they have had a couple of months to work on their House budget. They actually just passed the House budget last week, as a matter of fact. They took a whole week to do the budget, 10-hour days, over a course of 4 days. And the House passed their budget, and now the budget has come to the Senate, although the Senate has actually had the budget since the end of January. We've been working on the Senate budget as well. But we will now take the governor budget, the House budget. We will put together the Senate budget. We'll be done with that process at the end of this week. And in 2 weeks, we will take up the budget. We will also do 10-hour days over the course of 4 days to pass the Senate budget. That has to take place just before Memorial Day. And then it will go into conference committee. All three budgets will go into conference committee. I'm actually was appointed as vice chair of Ways and Means.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So I will be on that conference committee this year, which I'm really excited, looking forward to.
Yeah. Now, have the members of these committees and folks like yourself been going out into the community to meet with folks out in the community at various sites? Tell us about that.
That's correct. So when the governor released his budget, both House and Senate Ways and Means, the joint committee, went all across the Commonwealth. I want to say there were 8 or 9 public hearings all across the Commonwealth. We actually had one right in Peabody City Hall, that both myself and Representative Walsh, the rep from Peabody, that we presented. And it's a great way to get government right into people's, into your communities. People can come and tell us what's on their minds. So it was really great. So that process was completed. Now the House has completed their budget. Senate will complete our budget this month. Conference committee, and by law, by Constitution, we have to have a balanced budget passed by June 30th.
By June 30th. Now, when you said, just for our viewers and for my information as well, when you said House 1, that every year the bills that come before you as a legislative body start with number 1. Is that right? Is that why they call it House 1?
Yes, and that's the governor. The governor gets that number 1.
That number 1. So
that's
the first
correct.
bill of every year
Yes.
is always the governor's budget.
The governor's budget.
The governor's budget.
That's
okay.
correct.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about you. You are chairing a committee now that is charged with reviewing sexual harassment policies in the Senate. And this is something that, of course, in our national consciousness now is really taken hold and has a lot of visibility. Tell us about that process and tell us how that's going.
So that's a result of the hashtag Me Too movement.
Right.
That we've seen a lot of celebrities come forward with inappropriate sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is inappropriate under any levels. And so the State House is not immune to that as well. And there was allegations of sexual harassment in the Senate, in the State House, back in December with our then Senate President, actually his husband.
Right.
And there's kind of 2 ongoing processes right now. One is an independent ethics investigation of Senator Rosenberg, and then we are also taking a look at our sexual harassment policy. The Senate has a very strong zero-tolerance sexual harassment policy. We go through trainings each session. Our staff goes through trainings. but we did notice that we had some holes, some gaps. For instance, we have a very robust internship program in the State House, and interns were not included in this training. We also have a lot of advocates and lobbyists that come into the State House to do business. They were not aware of this zero tolerance sexual harassment policy. So the new Senate President, Senator Harriet Chandler, charged me as the chair and put together a committee of senators and staff to review our current policy, see where the gaps are, and we're going to make recommendations on how to strengthen that already good policy, but obviously we have gaps in it. One thing that we're going to do is do what they call a business climate survey. We actually had UMass Lowell come in and advise us on doing a survey to get the climate of the people that work in the building.
Right.
Not just senators and representatives, but staff members and interns.
Okay.
How's everyone feeling about this? Do they feel protected? Do they understand the reporting recommendations? Should they encounter some type of harassment? So we really want to make it very strong and know that people should feel protected when they walk inside the State House.
No harassment zone, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Now, the policies that you may come up with, is that something that then will automatically be put into place, or does this have to be proposed as legislature or?
Well, so because we already have a good
legislation,
policy, because we already have a good policy in place, we are making recommendations to enhance our policy. So.
Okay.
What I envision is a committee to be put together, which we really do need the advice of counsel, some employment lawyers, to be able to write the appropriate language that would go into the policy, again, to strengthen it.
Right.
So that's what I see going forward.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the Senate has been busy legislatively here recently, in recent months. Give us, for our viewers, an idea of what kind of, what are the highlights of some of the bills that have passed through the Senate?
We've been working on, we just passed a couple of really great bills. One is a student loan protection bill.
Okay.
So, I still have student loans from law school. I do. It's taking forever to pay those off. But we unanimously adopted at Senate 2380 an act establishing a student loan bill of rights. And what it does is that it creates an ombudsman office in the Office of the Attorney General, who is charged with making sure that any loan servicers that are doing business in Massachusetts are following our banking laws. That's the regulations that they would have to come under, laws and regulations. To make sure that students understand what their Bill of Rights are, so that they know that they can't be, discriminated against, or, sometimes you don't know who's servicing your loan. Is the interest rate correct? Can they charge me these extra fees? We want students to know that they have an avenue through the Attorney General's office to make sure that they're being treated fairly, and that these loan servicers that are doing business in Massachusetts, they have to be licensed. We have to know who you are, just like banks are licensed.
Right.
And so that students, again, have that opportunity to be able to ask questions or, question something that they may not think is right.
Now, by and large, are student loans, are there limits on how much students can be charged on student loans?
I believe it is a percentage. They can't go a certain percentage above your income level. I mean, you just can't tell someone, here's your loan repayment, and it exceeds maybe 50% of their income.
Yeah.
So there are, and that would be cumulative, depending on how many loans you have. I don't have that exact figure in front of me, but yes, those protections are in place. But a lot of times, when you're in school, especially when you're a young student, you're taking on student debts. You may not completely understand, exactly what that means.
Yeah, you're busy studying for exams in anthropology, and you're not really thinking about the loan.
You have your eye on the prize of getting that bachelor's degree or that graduate degree, whatever it might be. But as soon as you graduate, within a month, there's a bill in your mailbox, and so you need to know.
I know it. It happened to me. So
all of us, right? That's how we finance our educations, and it's necessary.
Sure.
We want to make sure people are protected.
Yeah. Right. Now, you are also the Senate co-chair of the PPD Commission, and that, I mean, that's a postpartum depression, correct?
Yes.
We talked about this a little bit on a show a couple of years ago. There's going to be an awareness day coming up soon. Share with our viewers what's happening in that area.
Exactly. So on May 8th, from noon to 2 p.m. in the State House, we're going to have our 4th annual perinatal mental health awareness day. And that has to do with postpartum depression. So I am the Senate chair of that commission. We do great work. We work with psychologists, psychiatrists, MDs, obstetricians, doulas. We just have this wide variety of experts that advise this commission on how to put good awareness in place for postpartum depression. This year we're focusing on substance use disorder of mothers and families. So we know that some moms are addicted to perhaps heroin. And that they need certain supports during a pregnancy to be able to deliver a healthy baby. And what does that also look like if an infant is born with drugs in their system? What does that look like? DCF gets involved. We want to put supports into place for these mothers so that we can get them off of whatever drug it is that they're addicted to, and again, provide supports to the family. We're in a crisis right now with heroin and fentanyl and different drugs that are on the streets, and moms are finding themselves, a pregnant woman is finding herself in that situation. So we are concentrating on what are the tools that we have in our toolbox right now to be able to help mothers who may be addicted. It's really going to be a really great day. We do it in the Great Hall in the State House, and it's packed.
Yeah, the Great Hall of Flags.
That's right.
I've been there,
That's correct.
Now, in terms of PPD, you shared with us some time ago that I think you have 3 daughters, correct?
Two daughters and a son.
And a son.
Yep.
And you yourself were a PPD sufferer as well. So you come from firsthand experience with that.
So my oldest is 30. 30 years ago, I don't even know, I'm sure PPD was known, but I recall, looking back now, I say to myself, wow, I think I had symptoms of postpartum depression and didn't know it. Just did not know. And so that's why we're doing these awareness days, to make more parents, new parents and families aware that yes, it exists. It can go from very, very mild depression to full psychosis, where sometimes a mother may take her life or the life of her infant. It's a real range, but it's completely curable.
Yeah, it's like the PTSD. Now, of course, we have it documented and it's treated that way, but back at the end of World War II, they didn't even have a term for it. And we've talked to veterans here who came out of the service with what we now recognize as PTSD, and they didn't even, they would be silent for 30 years and they'd have this stuff inside of themselves and just boiling like a pressure cooker. So it's important to know what it is, to know how to treat it, and to get help for the various people. Oh,
exactly.
Very good. Well, thank you for that, Senator Lovely.
Thank you.
One thing I want to talk about now, today is May 1st, and there was an article in the Salem News today about the opening up of the new Registry of Motor Vehicles here on the North Shore at Route 1 Danvers Crossing, the Danvers Crossing Mall. Tell us a little bit about that. I know it's been, I think the old one that was in the Liberty Tree Mall, that was closed up 2 years ago, I believe, over 2 years, and it's taken 2 years, and there was just a lot of machinations and things that were going on. Maybe bring us up to date and, on that new RMV location.
So that will be opening in the fall in the plaza where there's a Chili's out front, and there is David's Bridal, I believe, or was there, I think maybe going in that particular standalone building.
Right. Let me hold you up for 1 second.
Sure.
I'd like to ask our control room. We have a map of that intersection, and this is you can see there where the yellow line up and down is Route 1, and then the white intersecting line is Route 114. And it's not the side, it's not the east side where the big Costco is.
Right.
It's on the southbound side
southbound.
of Route 1.
Exactly, but right across from Costco. So if you
Right,
know where
right.
Costco is,
Right,
it's right across
But
Route
as
1
far as
south.
access to, sometimes you can't get off where you want to get
Right.
off, and people who have navigated
Depending
that
where
area.
you're coming, north or south, or
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
So it was, I get there was some problems with the lease, and I guess they signed a lease and were gonna move in, but then the owner of the building lost,
There was
bank
a foreclosure.
foreclosure.
Exactly, and that held up the signing of the lease, a good many months, close to a year. And now they have signed a lease, they are doing the build-out, and it will go in, and it should be convenient to the North Shore.
Yeah.
It's been very inconvenient. I've heard a lot from a lot of constituents who, are complaining they have to going to Wilmington,
Right.
or other points further, Boston, to be able to do transactions at the registry. So
Yeah.
this will be much more convenience to our constituents.
Yeah, and now you said that would be opening around September, did you
Yes.
say? So
Yep.
it's going to take a while for the build-out? And,
They'll do the build out, exactly. And now with Real ID, they have to equip all of these offices to be able to do the Real ID as well, including this office. So
right
but-
now, it's a Chili's, or was it Chili's?
I think I think the Chili's was out front.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what was in that building.
Yeah.
But plenty of parking, easily accessible.
Yeah.
It should be great for our
Yeah.
constituents. So, the mall was great, and they just could not, I don't know why, I'm not involved in that level of negotiation. So, would have been nice to keep it at the mall, but the mall owners and the state could not agree. There was also an HVAC air quality issue.
Yeah, that's what everybody
Yes,
was
right.
talking about, yeah.
So this comes at a higher cost, although it is a different market right now too. We're in a very robust real estate market with leases and rents as well.
Yeah.
But I think the convenience to the consumer
Yeah.
will make it worth it.
Yeah. Now, you talk about legislative actions that have been taking place in the Senate that directly affect Beverly, or how do they affect Beverly? I know Beverly is one of 5 communities that you and tell our audience who the 5 communities that you service are, or
Beverly,
you represent.
I always do it in alphabetical order.
There you go.
Beverly, Danvers, Peabody, Salem, Topsfield.
Okay, so tell us about some of the the actions of the legislature that will directly affect the people here in Beverly.
So the city just received a $300,000 grant to fund Pete's Park. That's the park for Pete Frates. A park that exists but needs some significant upgrades, especially to accommodate the disabled community. So through Mayor Cahill and Representative Paracella, City Council, we're able to secure that grant money for that park. I'm really looking forward to seeing that park be transformed in Pete's honor. We've also just approved Chapter 90 funding for all of the communities, and I think I may have the amount here for Beverly. Chapter 90 is very, very important for communities.
Explain to our viewers what Chapter 90 means. Yeah.
Chapter 90, so it's a program that was established in 1973 to reimburse municipalities for local transportation improvement projects. So
Right.
most of our roadways are locally controlled. You think of 95, Route 1, 128, 93, those are all the state highways. But roads right here in Beverly and across the district are locally controlled and maintained. And so the city is responsible to make sure they're paved correctly, filling potholes, plowing in the winter. Chapter 90 goes towards those capital improvements to keep our roadways in good condition. It's hard here in the Northeast because we do have harsh winters.
Harsh winters, yeah.
We get a lot of frost heaving. As a result, we get a lot of potholes. It's not like Florida where they don't get snow, right? So their roadways are in pretty good shape. When you go to vacation in Florida, you look at the roads and you go, wow,
right.
they're beautiful.
Yep.
Well, because they don't have frost heaves in the winter. So Beverly's allotment this year was over $1 million to be able to put towards that. And it's very important that that money get released timely, as in now, because the paving season is short.
Sure.
You know, it's really from April to November.
Yeah.
And once the temperature gets, you know, too
Right.
low, you can't pave anymore, and then you just see those temporary, you know,
Right.
filling of potholes. So very important. We do it over, you know, a one-year span. $200 million gets released across the Commonwealth, and Beverly's allotment was, again, just over $1 million.
Now, let's talk about a specific project that's going on actually close to where I live, and that is creating a roundabout at the exit ramp of 128 North at exit 18, Essex Street. That's happening. People that go through that, it's happening there right now. And if the results are anything like what we saw here at Brimble Avenue, that now is just absolutely almost a joy to drive through all those.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm over there, I know how to navigate that,
Yeah.
and it's safer. And that's that's the impetus a lot of times for putting these roundabouts in.
Yeah.
Is safety.
Yeah, and the Chapter 90 money, some Chapter 90 money will go towards that particular project.
You know what, and those are funded separately as well. So this Chapter 90 goes towards the maintenance of all of our local roadways. That's a different project which gets funded separately.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I have a little surprise for you, and I'd like our control room to put up a photo that was taken in January of you and I. There we go. Now, I will tell our audience that was at the annual meeting in January, this past January, down in Boston, of Mass Access. And Mass Access is the umbrella group that BevCam and other local access stations belong to here in the state of Massachusetts. And we nominated you to receive our Mass Access Legislator of the Year award. And there you are with the plaque that you were awarded that night. And I do want to say that from my standpoint, you are the best friend, as from a legislative standpoint, that Mass Access and that local access could have. And I know that we have been trying for the past several years to pass legislation that would require Comcast or whoever the local cable company is to do two things for local access. One is to broadcast us in HD, which we are not. We have the facilities. These are HD cameras that we're using here in the studio. But when we send our HD signal over to Tozer Road for Comcast, they dumb it down to standard depth. So that's one. And the other is the so-called electronic program guide, that when you're sitting on your couch and you're clicking to see what's on channel 5, 7, whatever, and you see Oprah and then you see National Geographic, well, when you look at ours, all it says is local programming. And so we're trying to do that. And I know that there have been several bills that have been introduced, and you have signed on as a co-signer of those, along with our state rep, Jerry Paracella.
Yes.
What the last effort at that? What happened to that? Where do we stand with that?
I would actually have to. We just did our final committee reporting back in February 7th exactly. I'm going to have to double back with you about exactly which direction that went.
Yeah.
Those went. So let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, and
I want to make sure that they either landed in House Ways and Means or Senate Ways and Means, where we can continue to get them to the floor for a vote.
Yeah, and we did. I think there were in the end 50 or 70 some legislators
That signed on.
Who signed on.
Yeah, because you know what, we understand the importance of local access television, stations, and the great work that you do in these communities to bring information like we're doing now, to be able to deliver this to our constituencies, and the great programming again that different people come on and talk about different issues. It's really terrific.
Right. And the program that we're on right now, we share this with the other 4 other cities and towns that you represent. And speaking of which, I'm going to reach behind me here, and I have something else that I would like to. I'll have our cameras zoom in on that, and on a yearly basis, another organization that BevCam belongs to, which is the Alliance for Community Media, there is a National Alliance for Community Media and a Alliance for Community Media Northeast Region. And every year they accept nominations or applications for programming in different categories. And so this program, under the category Issues and Political Process, the Beacon Hill Report, garnered a second place last year, November 3rd, 2017, which is when we... So I would like to present that
Thank you.
To you.
That's wonderful.
Yes, well, it's a fantastic achievement, and as we were saying, I think it helps the people out in the community understand what you're doing as our representative, what's happening in the State House, and how it affects them. I mean, this is grassroots democracy and reporting back to your constituents. I mean, it couldn't get more grassroots than that. So
it's terrific. Thank you. I'm so proud of this. Thank you.
Hang that up in your office when you get back to the State House.
You know what we should do, Walt, is sometime we should have you come in with a camera crew and we could do a whole thing of being in the State House.
A little walkthrough, yeah, no,
that would be great. You could visit my office, Representative Paracella's office, so people can see exactly where we are, and then have a kind of like a little tour of the State House, the House chamber, the Senate chamber, and what we do.
Where
Maybe even catch a session.
Happens. Yeah, I think our viewers would really. I think our viewers would really appreciate that. Yeah.
Great.
So let me just get back to. Let's talk about how people can get in touch with you, your constituents. So we're going to put up. Let's see. Let's put up a phone number first. And that's 617-722-1410. And where does that ring? What number is that?
That rings right into my Boston office, my State House office.
Okay.
I have a staff of 5 who is in the office every day with me. They're very supportive. Constituent services is probably the number one thing that we do. That's my training as a city councilor. When the phone rings and someone's on the other end, they're looking for assistance, we help in any way that we can.
Yeah,
so.
You spent, what, about 18 years?
Yeah, 15.
15
years, yeah.
As a city councilor in the sister city of Salem.
Yes.
And let's take a look now. I think we have some websites and we have an email address. Let's take a look at the next one here. What do we have? Okay, so this is joan.lovely@masssenate.gov.
Right, that's email. So if that's a good way to communicate. And there's Facebook.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook page, and a lot of people communicate through Facebook, through messaging.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular.
Yeah, they do. Even among the older folks, that not necessarily.
You know what? That's a good way to communicate too. Yes.
Yeah. And now you are also, and then Twitter at SEN Joan Lovely.
Yes. Yeah. We're on Twitter quite a bit.
Yeah.
Another good way to communicate with people. A preferred method for a lot of folks.
Yeah. Now, you also have office hours here in Beverly. So tell us about, it's the first Monday of each month from 9 to 10, and you alternate. Tell us about that. You alternate between the Senior Center and the Atomic Cafe.
We do. So one month we'll be at the Senior Center from 9 to 10 a.m. The following month, that first Monday, we'll be at the Atomic Cafe from 9 to 10 a.m. Those go in a newsletter that I put out monthly. If anybody would like to sign up for the newsletter, just shoot us an email.
Right.
And we'll sign you up for the newsletter. I just had one that go out today for the month of May.
Yeah, I saw that.
And those have all of our office hours in all the communities and where we are. And although if somebody can't make an office hour meeting at that designated time, let us know. We are, I'm very flexible. I'll come to your living room. I'll meet you in another coffee shop. I'll meet you on a Saturday. I want to be able to accommodate people's schedules.
Yeah, and I would like to ask people or tell people that if you do want to get that newsletter, I subscribe to that newsletter. It's very handy, and it's very informative, and lets people know what is going on.
It's an electronic newsletter that we put out, and it tells what happened the previous month, what legislation we passed, what we've been working on. Again, office hours. Shows what we've done in the district. It's really nice if somebody doesn't have can't, subscribe to it by email, we'll print it out and mail them a copy.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, Senator Lovely, thank you very much for being with us here in the studio.
Thank you.
As always. And I'd like to remind our viewers that you have been watching the Beacon Hill Report with Senator Joan Lovely. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski, and we'll see you next time.